Welcome to Moments with Manyi. I'm so glad you're here. There are some conversations we enter because we are looking for answers, and there are others we enter because our hearts have grown tired of carrying the questions alone. Tonight's conversation may be one of those, so come in, settle your heart, and let's share this moment together. Comparison rarely announces itself. It doesn't always enter our lives loudly. Sometimes it arrives through an innocent scroll on our phones. Sometimes it enters during a conversation with a friend, or when we hear that someone else received the opportunity we had been praying for. Comparison begins to take something from us. I know that feeling. Me too. Or when someone asks a simple question like, "What are you doing with your life now?" And suddenly it doesn't feel like a simple question anymore. Exactly. Because the question touches something we have already been quietly questioning within ourselves. We begin looking at another person's life and using it as a measuring stick for our own. Their marriage, their children, their career, their home, their confidence, even their relationship with God. And little by little, comparison begins to take something from us. Our peace, our confidence, and sometimes our ability to recognize what is already beautiful in our own lives. Comparison is a thief because it keeps our eyes so firmly fixed on what belongs to someone else that we stop noticing what God has placed in our hands. There was an evening a few months ago when I picked up my phone because I wanted to relax. I wasn't looking for anything in particular. I told myself I would scroll for only a few minutes. At first, everything seemed harmless. A friend had received a promotion. Someone else was celebrating an engagement. Another person had launched a business. Then there were family photographs, beautiful homes, holidays, and announcements. Everyone seemed to be moving forward, and I was sitting alone in my room, wondering whether I had moved at all. That feeling can come so suddenly. It did. I was happy for them, I truly was. But underneath that happiness was another voice. It kept asking, "What about you, Hope? When will it be your turn? What do you have to show for all the years you have been trying?" And before I knew it, I had taken every beautiful thing I saw in someone else's life and turned it into evidence that something was missing from mine. What did you feel in that moment? Small, behind, and strangely ashamed. Nothing about my life had changed during those few minutes, but the way I saw my life had changed completely. Before I picked up the phone, I had been at peace. By the time I put it down, I felt as though I was failing, even though I wasn't. That is what frightened me. I had allowed a few carefully selected moments from other people's lives to rewrite the meaning of my own. For me, comparison was not always about wanting what someone else had. Sometimes it was about feeling as though life had formed a line, and everyone had been called forward except me. I watched people reach milestones I had expected to reach by a certain age. They were building families, advancing in their careers, buying homes, discovering their purpose, and I kept thinking, I should be there by now. Those words "by now" can carry so much pressure. They can. I attended celebrations and smiled because I genuinely loved the people being celebrated. But after some of those celebrations, I would go home and feel the silence of my own unmet expectations. I would stand in front of the mirror and ask myself what I had done wrong. Had I made the wrong decisions? Had I missed an opportunity? Had I misunderstood God? Or was there simply something about me that was not enough? That last question can wound us deeply. It did. But I learned that my life was not late. Because comparison did not only make me question my timing, it made me question my worth. For a while, I believed that being delayed meant being denied. I believed that if my journey looked different, it must somehow be inferior. What helped you begin to see it differently? I had to stop treating life as though it were a race with one correct schedule. I began to understand that some seasons are visible and some are hidden. There are seasons when your life appears to be growing outwardly. And there are seasons when God is strengthening your roots where no one can see. Nothing may look impressive above the ground, but something necessary is still happening beneath it. I was not being forgotten. I was being formed. Comparison often grows from what I call the lie of scarcity. It is the belief that there is not enough goodness to go around, not enough opportunity, not enough love, not enough recognition, not enough success. And so, when someone else receives something beautiful, fear whispers that there must now be less available for us, as though their answered prayer has taken the place of ours. Exactly. But look at these candles. When one flame lights another, the first flame does not become smaller. Its light is not reduced because another candle is now shining. There is room for both. So another person's light does not have to threaten mine. No, someone else's blessing is not evidence of your lack. Their open door does not mean every door has closed for you. Their harvest does not mean your ground is empty. Their season does not cancel yours. God is not limited by what He has already done for someone else. That sounds simple when we say it here. But when you have been waiting for a long time, it can be difficult to believe. It can. Faith does not ask us to pretend that waiting is painless. It asks us not to turn someone else's testimony into a reason to doubt God's faithfulness toward us. We can say, God, thank you for what you have done in her life. And in the same breath, we can say, help me trust you with mine. That is not denial. That is mature faith. Celebrating someone else without abandoning ourselves. Yes, we do not have to become smaller for someone else to shine. And they do not have to become smaller for us to feel secure. There is room for every light God has chosen to kindle. The difficulty with comparison is that we are rarely comparing complete stories. We usually compare our whole lives to someone else's selected moments. We see the photograph, but we do not see the conversation that happened before it. We see the achievement, but we do not see the years of rejection sacrificed behind it. We see the smiling family, but we do not know what they are carrying privately. We see the finished result, but we do not see the nights when they nearly gave up. So we are comparing what we know about ourselves with what someone else has chosen to show us. Yes, we know every unfinished corner of our own lives, every mistake, every doubt. But when we look at someone else, we may only see the moment they felt ready to share. Their most polished moment beside our most vulnerable one. And that is not a fair comparison. A photograph can be true without telling the whole truth. A person may genuinely be joyful and still be carrying pain. They may be successful and still feel afraid. They may be grateful and still be exhausted. Life is rarely only one thing at a time. I think I sometimes forget that the person behind the post is still a whole human being. Exactly, when we forget that, we envy an image instead of understanding a person. There was a time when I looked at strong women and assumed strength meant ease. I thought confidence meant they had no fear. I thought leadership meant they never doubted themselves. I thought a peaceful smile meant life had been gentle with them. But I know differently now. Because you have been one of those women. Yes, there were seasons when people told me I looked strong, and I would smile because I did not know how to explain that strength was the only choice I thought I had. There were days when I encouraged others while quietly needing encouragement myself. There were moments when I showed up beautifully for everyone else and went home completely empty. Many people become skilled at carrying pain gracefully, and because they carry it well, we assume it is light. That is why comparison can be so unkind. We may envy someone for the very strength they developed through suffering. We may admire their confidence without knowing how many times life broke it and they had to rebuild. It's true, people carry so much pain gracefully. We may wish for their position without understanding the responsibility, loneliness, or sacrifice that came with it. So when we compare, we may be asking for a life we do not fully understand. Yes, and we may also be judging our own lives without understanding what they are preparing us to become. Compassion changes comparison. When we remember that everyone is carrying something, envy begins to soften. Instead of asking, why does she have what I do not have? We can ask, what might she have survived to stand where she stands? And rather than resenting her light, we can honor her journey. That's so powerful, Manyi. It really is. One of the deepest wounds comparison creates is the belief that difference means deficiency. We see someone who is gifted differently and assume we are less gifted. We see someone moving at another pace and assume we are behind. We see someone called to a visible platform and assume our quieter purpose has less value. But look at these: a leaf, a stone, a shell. None of them needs to become the other in order to be beautiful. Their beauty comes from being what they were created to be. Exactly. God does not create people carelessly. Your temperament was not an accident. Your voice was not an accident. Your compassion, your creativity, your sensitivity, your strength, and even the places where you still need to grow are all part of a life God is shaping with intention. But sometimes we spend so much time admiring someone else's design that we neglect our own. We do. We ask God to make us more like the person we admire, when perhaps He is inviting us to become more fully ourselves. There is wisdom in learning from others. There is beauty in being inspired. But inspiration should help us discover our own expression, not erase it. So the goal is not to stop appreciating other people. It is to stop disappearing while we do it. Yes, you can honor someone else's gifts without dishonoring your own. You can learn from her courage without copying her voice. You can celebrate her calling without abandoning yours. You can admire the way she shines and still ask God, Lord, how have you called me to shine? Nature carries a quiet wisdom. The rose does not look at the sunflower and wonder why it was not created taller. The sunflower does not resent the lavender for its fragrance. The river does not compete with the oak tree. The fern does not call itself insignificant because it grows beneath something larger. Each part of creation responds to the purpose placed within it. It grows where it has been planted. It receives the light available to it. It unfolds in its own season. And no flower apologizes for blooming later than another. No. Some blossoms appear in spring. Others wait for summer. Some trees take years before they produce fruit. But slow growth is still growth. Hidden growth is still growth, and a delayed season is not an empty season. The garden needs different colors, different heights, and different kinds of beauty. So does the world. It needs your voice, not an imitation of someone else's. It needs your story, your another person's purpose. You need to become faithful to your own. It needs your story, your wisdom, your compassion, your way of seeing. You do not need to compete with another person's purpose. You need to become faithful to your own. Let's pause here. Not to judge ourselves, not to feel ashamed, but simply to notice what has been happening within us. The first question is, what have I been comparing? Perhaps you have been comparing your body, your marriage, your children, your career, your finances, your home, your spiritual life, your healing. Or the pace at which your life is unfolding. Be honest. Comparison loses some of its power when we are willing to name it. The second question is, what has God already given me? Not what is still missing, not what someone else has, what is already present in your life. Perhaps it is strength, wisdom, a second chance, a loving relationship. A gift you have not fully used, a prayer God has already answered, or simply the grace that has carried you this far. Sometimes I can name what is missing much faster than I can name what is present. Many of us can. That is why gratitude must become intentional. Not because our desires are wrong, but because we do not want our desires to make us blind. Exactly. You are allowed to hope for more. You are allowed to pray for change. But while you wait, do not let comparison convince you that your life contains nothing worth honoring. Take a moment. Write honestly. There is no performance here, only truth.